What's going on, everybody? Merry Christmas Eve. Welcome into a post-game edition of the Pack a Day podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Oh, a win, I guess. 33-30 Packers. And it's, every ounce of me wants to talk about, obviously, some of the good stuff that happened in this game. Really fun performance from Jordan, Tucker Kraft, great game. But that was, we're all going to talk about the defense all week long again. That was just when you think that the Giants game and Tommy DeVito is bad, just when you think that Baker Mayfield and a perfect QB rating at Lambeau Field is bad, this was worse. This was worse than either of those two performances on defense. This is the worst team in football, the worst offense in football. You've got Chuba Hubbard, who's not like a starting caliber running back, like 76-year-old Adam Thielen, a rookie quarterback who had shown they didn't score a touchdown in their previous two games combined, not a single touchdown. So for Carolina to drop 30, like it should have never, ever been that close. And it's not just like Carolina scoring 30. When Green Bay lost to Tampa, at least you had the 5 sacks, the Kingsley and Igbare forced fumble recovery that led to a touchdown. I don't think there's anything positive you can say about the defense in this game. I have to look. Preston Smith, I know, had at least 1 sack. They had 2 sacks, 1.5 from Preston and 1.5 from Quay. 1 pass defense. I think that was Jonathan Owens. Yeah, that was Jonathan Owens. That's it. It's not just that they allow 30 to the worst offense. It's that they couldn't even do anything, that there's no positives that you can take away from that. That was atrocious. And yes, for anyone that wants to point this out, I know, Arnoldo, I saw you post this. Is this the final straw? Will this be the game that gets Joe Barry fired? Probably not, but I have no idea how not. And for you guys, if you know me well enough, my episode following the last game was, it's time to end the Joe Barry era. I hate calling for people's jobs. I know it's part of the gig. I get it. It's it's a business, but I hate having to do it, especially on Christmas. That's not great, right? There's no other alternative at this point. It is gross incompetence to continue to do the same things over and over, to not try something different. Who knows? Maybe it sparks something. You cannot get worse. It can't get much worse than a 30-point performance by the Carolina Panthers when your team needs it most, coming off of 2 other atrocious games. This is not back-to-back Patrick Mahomes, whoever. It doesn't even matter. It's not like 3 amazing offenses. This is Tommy DeVito, Baker Mayfield, Bryce Young, and you can't play competent defense. I don't know what else you need to know at this point. It's done. It's over. You have to make the change. You absolutely have to make the change. And like I said, will they? Probably not. I don't know what Matt can say, though. I honestly do not know. What can you say? Oh, you know what? We just didn't communicate things the right way. We gotta talk more. We gotta talk more as a team. Like, F that. Like, give me a break. Oh, we didn't align correctly. I'm sorry. That also falls under coaching and the defensive coordinator's purview. Then something has to change. And I don't know what else you do. And I know it's only 2 weeks left. I get that it's the holiday. Like, you just have to make the change. And I don't know who gets that job. I don't know if it's Olivedati. I don't know if it's the defensive backs coach. I don't know who it is. I do not care at this point. And I know it's a win. And maybe for those of you who are hoping for this type of exact scenario, maybe this is the perfect Christmas gift. You get a win, keep the playoff hopes alive. You put up 33 points on offense. The offense puts up 33 points with no Christian Watson, with no Luke Musgrave, with no Jaden Reed, with a half of Dontavian Wicks. And obviously Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon still not completely 100%, and no David Bakhtiari. And they put up 33 points. And what we're talking about still is the defense. And by the way, special teams outside of Anders Carlson, he kicks a 53-yard, the extra point, not on him. That was a high snap and a bad hole. The snap is really what screwed it. But Anders was great in this game, specifically the game winner and the 50-some yarder. I have no issue. I don't put that extra point on him. You'd still like to see him maybe muscle it through, but I certainly don't put that on him. But not a great day from the special teams, an atrocious day from the defense, and a really fun day from the offense. And yes, they get the win, keep the playoff hopes alive. The Vikings just lost 30-24. That should help. Vikings had 3 big injuries in that game. Jordan Addison out, did not return. TJ Hawkinson out, did not return. And then DJ Wanham, I believe it was Wanham, gets carted off in that game as well. So they're going to be, probably a bit, down with players next week. But man, I don't know what else there is to talk about. Like, it's going to be Nick Mullins and Justin Jefferson for 400 yards and 7 touchdowns next week if Green Bay continues to do the same things over and over. All right, let's get to some super chats. Joe Barry is a God among man. Who are us mere mortals to question him? No one else could close out this game with such flair. Dobbs dropped it, by the way. Yeah, that Romeo Dobbs catch, no catch. That's going to be one that is talked about for a while. That's a big time, multi-franchise altering drop potentially, or non-drop, because obviously Green Bay continues their playoff hopes. Carolina keeps the loss, which keeps Chicago with the number 1 pick at the moment. Like, a lot of things could potentially change based on that call in the history of the NFL. Could mean the Bears get Caleb Williams, number 1 overall. Like, just a lot could go differently if that's called an incompletion. And it just goes back to I don't even think the NFL knows what the heck a catch or not a catch is. They bring the rules expert in and he says, oh, it's definitely not a catch. The announcer saying, oh, I think that might be a catch. And it just stands. Like, yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, that's an interesting one. I leaned towards it. I thought they were going to call it incomplete. I did see what I think it was Robert Smith was explaining, how it did look for a moment like the play had ended and he had control and was down. Man, I could have saw that going either way, but I expected them to make it an incomplete pass, if I'm being totally honest. All right, let me get to a few more of these super chats here. Love your stuff, Andy. I'm proud of this offense being so undermanned. Yeah, I think that's a real positive takeaway. And again, for you guys that know me, I like to lean positive, but I don't know how you can take away anything. At least the first takeaway isn't just about the defense in this one. But Tucker Kraft, really fun day from him. Bo Melton, especially in that first half, I thought that was a really flashy performance from him. Kind of getting his feet wet for really the first long, elongated period of time. I'm really excited to see what he can kind of do moving forward. Now, hopefully we don't have to see too much Bo Melton. Hopefully they can get some of these guys back and don't have to play a lot of Bo Melton and Malik Heath. But Aaron Jones, beautiful day. I thought it was a really well-called day for the most part from Matt LaFleur. Some interesting stuff in the second half. Going with 2 straight Patrick Taylor runs to end the offensive day was a little bit interesting. But overall, you're not going to be – if you would have told me Green Bay put up 33 points on offense, especially with no defense or special teams help with that, meaning they didn't get any big returns or turnovers or anything like that, that's about an A+ performance. Because while Carolina is bad, the Carolina defense has some sneaky, really good players. I thought they handled Derek Brown and Brian Burns all day long. The offensive line, specifically in pass protection, but even might have been their best day in run blocking as well. That was an impressive overall day from the offense, especially given the fact, again, no Musgrave, no Watson, no Wicks for half the game, no Jaden Reed, no Bakhtiari, just a lot of injuries in that group. And like I said, hopefully they can get some of those guys back this week. And thanks so much for the super chat. I have no desire to go back to the days 10 years ago where we had to score 30 plus to keep ahead of our bad defense to win. It is insane. Like, you would have, I was expecting a different style and brand of football this season. I was hoping for the special teams to take a jump after, last year with Joe Barry on the mind, with Rich Bisaccia, in his second season. I was hoping for more of a jump there. We clearly have not seen that so far. I was hoping the defense was maybe going to be able to gel this year and play a little bit better, and that they weren't going to have to put as much on Jordan Love's plate. And I've said it so many times this week. I'm sure you guys are probably sick of it at this point. I am so freaking impressed with Jordan Love, the way that he is playing without having a defense, without having a special teams. This is one of the few games they've had a run game. It is unbelievable, with the weapons that we just talked about that are missing, without his left tackle all season long. And he just keeps putting this team on his back over and over and over again. Doesn't matter who's out there, Tucker Kraft, Bo Melton, who cares? Malik Heath, we're going to find a way to put points up. And again, not many first-year starting quarterbacks are putting that performance with that situation today, with the pass catchers and weapons that Green Bay had available. There's just not many guys that are doing that. But this is the same brand of football we've seen for so many years. It's up to the quarterback. It's up to the offense to put up enough points, because the defense can't stop anyone. The special team certainly isn't going to help you. And you just have to hope that you put up enough points on offense, even against the worst offense and the worst team in the NFL, who scored 0 touchdowns in the last 2 games, 15 points combined over those 2 games. They double that today. 15 points in their previous 2 games. They get 30 today. Should have been 32 had it not been for 2 missed extra points. Unbelievable from defense. And yes, and I agree, it would be nice to see some complimentary football and this team actually be able to cobble together some semblance of a mediocre defense and special teams so that it's not up to number 10. And I will say number 10 continues to show that he is the guy moving forward. I don't think there's been many questions over the past few weeks, but just week after week, he continues to show it. I love the touchdown to Romeo Doubs. It was the same throw he missed to Jaden Reed a week ago. He makes it this time and in a really key situation. If they don't have that, I don't know if they win this game the way the defense was playing. Offense needed to be pretty perfect. It wasn't exactly perfect, but it was pretty darn close. And they put up 33 points in a win. I'm sorry, but Matt LaFleur should not get to make the decision to fire Barry. Matt LaFleur is the issue, not Barry. Him being the one to get to fire him would be as embarrassing as this defense. I thought about this a little bit today. Let me take a quick drink. Sorry, guys. I'm fighting a cold here. I thought about this today, and I almost tweeted it out of saying, like, if you're the Packers, you almost need to take this decision out of Matt LaFleur's hands and just say, Joe Barry's going. And if not, I don't think you can get to the point of saying, if not, you're going. But you have to be careful with that because you don't want to upset your head coach either. But you have to have some influence with him to be able to nudge him in the direction of saying, it's time. It's clearly time. It is beyond time. And like I said, I hate that aspect of it. I wish, I hope Joe goes on and has a great career elsewhere and can figure things out with another team. Hope him and his family are able to rebound whenever this eventually happens, because it will eventually happen. But this is a results-oriented business, period. End of story. That goes for GMs, coaches, assistant coaches, coordinators, players, practice squad guys. I mean, guys get fired every single week. It might just be like, oh, they let a practice squad guy go. That's a guy getting fired. Like somebody within that organization almost every single week gets fired. It's time for the one glaring issue, the one guy that they haven't addressed. It's time. And like I said, I hate calling for that. I hate calling for someone's job, but I don't know of any other alternative at this point than to say it just flat and clear as it is. It's time. It's absolutely time. All right, PJ Wynn, good to see you. That was disgusting. I wanted to claw my eyes out. Definition of insanity to keep running this brand out every week. It was so weird too, because I thought early in this game, Green Bay actually did bring some additional pressure. They brought some blitzes. Wasn't always perfect, but you could tell Bryce Young wasn't getting comfortable. And then it felt like in the second half, they kind of just played. I'll take a look at it closer when the all 22 comes out this week, of course. But it certainly felt like they got a lot more soft in the second half. Played a lot more off coverage. There's that 3rd and 12 in the second half where Jair's playing way off. It's a 15-yard play, 18-yard play, something like that. And then you also get the weirdo Devontae Wyatt jumping on a pile. It's a fumble. It is a effing fumble. What do you expect him to do? Just like, bebop on the side, be like, hey, that's a fumble. I can't jump on it. Don't want a 15-yard penalty. It's a fumble. What is he supposed to do? And then, of course, LaFleur compounds things by challenging it as well. Just an all-time epic, awful play. Bad play call, bad execution, stupid penalty, can't recover the fumble, compound things by challenging it and losing a timeout in the situation. Just checking every single glorious box on that one. But yeah, there was a lot of clawing your eyes out moments. I was just like, at times on defense, that final drive, guys, the only reason that this is not in overtime right now is because there was one less second on the clock than there needed to be. It is unbelievable, the incompetence on defense all around. Like, I joked, I'm like, you gave Joe Barry 18 seconds left. That's a bold choice. There's in no world 18 seconds, no timeouts can you get in field goal range. And to be fair, they didn't. They needed 19 seconds or whatever it was. Maybe it was 19 seconds and they needed 20, but they needed one more second. But to even allow it to be remotely that close is so beyond embarrassing and frustrating. And yes, eye clawing out worthy. I'm with you, PJ Wynn, 1,000,000%. Matt will say the defense didn't allow them to score on that last drive and give Barry an extension for it. In all seriousness, if he's here next, there's we're beyond that, Preston. I think at this point, Joe Barry is gone at some point. And for anyone that was hoping, because I think there was maybe some thought of you've got Carolina in the worst offense in the league, Minnesota with Nick Mullins, and then the Chicago Bears. Could Joe Barry cobble together 3 really great games against 3 atrocious offenses to maybe keep it's done. It's just done. And like I said, I don't expect it to happen tomorrow and Christmas morning. I don't think we're going to get that present under the tree, but I do think it's going to unequivocally happen at the end of the year. I just don't think there's any way around it at this point. It would, like I said, it's gross incompetence to even keep it going for 2 more games. It's well beyond that if he stays for another. It just can't. There's 0.0% chance, in my opinion, that stays. And I think there might be legitimate rallies at like 1265 of like what's going on if that were even remotely starting to happen. Yeah, just frustrating. Merry Christmas from Bo Melton. Jonathan, thanks for the super chat. Yeah, if you guys listened to the pregame show today, I started out talking about Bo Melton and just like a play that he put on tape last week. It was just I think it was just like a go route. But just the speed that he took off with at the line of scrimmage. And I knew he ran a 4.3 40. I knew he was a super fast dude, but I just had to do a double take because I'm like, who is that on the bottom of the screen? And then, like I said, it was Bo Melton. And it just made me do a double take and really kind of see like, who he was. Cause it was just different. It just looked different from the explosiveness at the line of scrimmage, just kind of bursting off the line of scrimmage, I should say. And part of today, when I saw that Reed was going to be out, I was a little bit geeked up about getting to see a little bit more Bo Melton. And I thought he made the most of his opportunities. He's a fun player. We see he has speed. I thought that crossing route showed off exactly the explosiveness that he has. Awesome play by Jordan to get it to him on that particular one. That's a contested play at the end too, where the safety's coming up fast and Melton, hung on to it. Fun day from Bo Melton. This Packers offense has some really fun young playmakers, and they needed every single one of them in this game, especially with all the players who were out due to injury. My balls itch. Good to see you, my friend. How the hell does Joe Barry not change things and still run the same stupid pressure with the middle wide open? Yeah, it's sort of the same thing. I mean, even the blitzes are very vanilla blitzes, right? It's very unimaginative. It's very blah. It's nothing. It's not creative. I don't know. What I don't understand, there are 32 people in the world who get to call an NFL defense. 32 people. That's a rare job. That's a sought after job. A lot of football coaches in the world would love the autonomy to call an NFL defense. I can't imagine that you finally get to be in that position. You get to be an NFL defensive coordinator and you just say, you know what? Our strategy is just going to be super vanilla. We're not going to do anything exotic. Nothing. Like, don't you at least get like an itchy trigger finger at some point to be like, let's blitz that. What's the worst that can happen? Let's try something. Let's do something different. And I know Joe said this week that, we don't think we can just, kind of change the entire defense. I get that, but you can call different plays. It's not like you don't have some more exotic blitzes in your scheme. It's not like you can't bring more pressure. You can do some different things. I promise it's going to be okay. It's not probably going to be worse than a 30-point performance by the Panthers offense. And you know what? Even if they get 30, maybe if you're more aggressive while doing it, maybe, just maybe, you can force an actual turnover during the course of a 4-quarter game. Yeah, as you can tell, a different tone this week. Super disappointed just because it shouldn't have to be like that. You got Jair back this week, and I'm not saying Jair played a phenomenal game by any stretch of the imagination. We'll see what that looks like when the tape comes out. But there is, while I don't think there's the 8 first-round pick, and this is like if you were to take all defensive coordinators away, right, and just make all things equal, every team had the exact same defensive coordinator, and all it came down to was talent. All right, I don't think this is a top 20 defense, maybe a top 15 defense, probably maybe somewhere between 16 and 24 is where I would probably put this defense from a talent standpoint. You can't be 32. You can't be 32. And they're right now the worst defense in football. I don't know. I don't care what it ranks. I don't care if it's from a DVOA standpoint or a points per game standpoint. Look at the last 6 games. Look at them against Bryce Young and Baker Mayfield and Tommy DeVito And anyone try to look me in the eye and tell me it's not the worst defense in football right now, because it is. And I'm not saying it's been the worst defense in football all season, but it's certainly been the worst defense in football over the past, month or so, maybe a little bit longer than that. So yeah, fun times. Appreciate all you guys on the super chats, by the way. 663 people in chat. Appreciate that as well. We obviously are still celebrating a Packers victory, but a lot of venting to do. It's awesome that one side of the ball dominated enough to go out and win this game single-handedly, for an offense that had so many injuries to go out and get 33 points against a pretty good Panthers defense and win this game and go out and do it. But it's just, you have to do things as a team. It can't just be celebrating one side of the offense doing awesome and just ignore everyone else crapping the bed. It just doesn't work that way. It needs to be more cohesive, especially when there's every excuse for the offense. They're the ones that are insanely young. They're the ones that are completely beat up and don't have all of their playmakers or their starting left tackle. They're the ones where it's like, hey, if there's a couple hiccups here and there, I understand it, willing to give more accident forgiveness. And instead, they're the ones putting all of 1265 on their back and saying, we're going to get us to 7 wins on the season because apparently nobody else is going to be able to do anything. Go Pack Go from Australia. Christmas Day in Australia, Joe Barry to be fired. All I want for Christmas. Love looking promising. Yeah, like I said, I think a lot of people are sending last minute letters in the mail to Santa for that last Christmas wish. I don't think it's going to come true. And again, I don't want to put it lightly. I get that this is a human being, but again, it's a performance-based business, and a lot of people are going to be having that same wish tomorrow morning. Just don't expect it to happen. But I don't think it's impossible, by the way. I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility. Until I see it, I will continue to believe it probably didn't happen. It would be interesting if they did make that decision, if they would do it today or if they would do it tomorrow. I don't know. It's probably just not going to happen anyway, but that would be an interesting thing to consider. The Shanahan offense looks so different with an explosive running back. This offense is night and day different with Showtime in it. Hope we keep him around, even if it's in an atypical contract. Yeah, when Jones is in there, it just changes the entirety of the offense. There's no way this team is at 7-8 if they have him all year. This offense was supposed to be built around him. And I know it gets frustrating at times where they kind of forget about him for, it seems like, a quarter and a half at a time. But when he's going and when he's going well, I mean, he had plenty of touches today. I don't think there's too much you can say. 21 carries, and they targeted him 3 times. So they targeted him basically 24 times in this game. For a guy who just coming back from the injury still, even in a normal game for Aaron, that's a good amount. I can live with 21 carries and 3 targets in the passing game for Aaron Jones every single week. That seems like a almost perfect number for him to be at. So I know it does feel frustrating sometimes when he kind of goes for little stretches without getting the ball. But if he's healthy all year, this team has a better than a 7-8 record. They win some of those games earlier in the year. The great news is Green Bay found ways to put up points without him. Now they get him back. Unfortunately, they get him back, and Wicks and Reed and Watson and Musgrave and all those guys are all out. But hopefully, fingers crossed, at some point, we actually get this offense at full peak capability. And I would love to see Aaron Jones back in some capacity next year as well. Some tough decisions that they're going to have to make with some of the bigger contracts. But I would say Kenny Clark, Aaron Jones, maybe even Preston Smith trending in a direction to stay. Devondre Campbell, not so much, probably trending in the opposite direction. Even if we win out, we can't win playoff games with Joe. Yeah, I mean, winning out and making the playoffs isn't necessarily, let's be abundantly clear. This team is completely incapable of making any sort of serious Super Bowl run, right? That's not an option. This team is not a Super Bowl team. Even if they got as hot as they could possibly get, this team is not going on a stretch to win a Super Bowl. You're hoping to make the playoffs to show that they can bounce back from some really bad football over the past 2 weeks. You're hoping that they can make that push to the playoffs so that you get another game of experience and that these young players, especially on offense, can see what it's like to play a playoff caliber football game with the lights on and the intensity, and everyone's just ratcheted up a whole nother level, because you can learn from that. So even if they go and they get beat up by some team, yeah, it's not great. It's not like you're going to feel great about it or whatever, but I do think there's an opportunity there to gain experience. And I just think it looks good overall for a young football team, first time starting quarterback, to make that run, probably go 9-8 and make the playoffs. I don't think that's I don't think there's much downside there. But yeah, to be abundantly clear, even if they fire Joe and go with a defensive, different defensive coordinator for these last few weeks, there's 0.0% chance they're making this extraordinary run. But get in the playoffs, see if you can win a game, see if you can learn from some of the experiences that you get playing in a playoff game. I still think that's a good thing overall for a young team. One and done playoff hopes. Yeah. I think we're on the same page there, KY, based on what I just kind of talked about as well. And again, what I want to see in my entire goal, if you guys remember from training camp, before training camp, during the season, when they went on a 3-game win streak, when they went on a 4-game losing streak, my entire goal this season is progress. We've seen a lot of progress on offense. We've seen, in my opinion, regression from special teams, and we've seen a lot of regression from defense. I still just want to see this team continue to progress, whether that means they're 7-10 or 9-8, whether they win a playoff game, lose a playoff game, don't make the playoffs. I just want to see this young team continue to make strides in the right direction. We're seeing a lot of it on offense. We're not seeing a lot of it in many other aspects of the game, unfortunately. I have a feeling Jair played today so he could get ready to shut down Jefferson next week. Will Musgrave play next week? My guess is Musgrave will not play next week. I do think, hopefully Jair got through this one and is able to play next week. As mentioned, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson both went out for the game in Minnesota. If they're not able to play, that Jair, Jefferson matchup could be huge next week. I think he also wanted to play in Carolina from his home area. I'm sure that probably played a factor as well. But hopefully Jair got through this one and he can continue to make progress and continue to play moving forward. Arnaldo, who is the odd man out in the wide receiver room with these good performances? Green Bay is getting out of Bo Melton. I was thinking about that today as well. That drop today from Samori Toure, you could tell he was frustrated because he's not getting many opportunities. When he does, you can't have those sort of things happen. I would not surprise me if Samori gets released, Bo Melton gets moved to the 53, and then they hope that Toure doesn't get claimed and they can put Toure on the practice squad and just kind of swap those players out. But it also could, excuse me, it also could be a situation where if they feel like Wicks and Watson and Reed are able to go this week, that Toure and Melton wouldn't be active anyway. And maybe they just try to keep Melton on the practice squad. But Melton also put enough on tape where if you're the Panthers, if you're some bad football team, like just go sign that guy off of Green Bay's practice squad. Like he showed enough to look like he's a legitimate 53-man roster wide receiver. So they might need to make that move just to kind of keep him on the team. All right, guys, I am not going to stay too much longer. Probably just a couple more minutes. I have got a Christmas party I have to go to. And as you can tell, my throat's getting a little raspy here. So, hey, Vex, thank you so much. I appreciate both sentiments, if I'm being honest, but that's super, super kind of you. Appreciate all of you guys showing up. 700 people in chat right now. All right. Anything else we want to talk about? The refs fiber, it was all over the place. I mean, it was all of that penalty on Devontae Wyatt was a weird one. They called back the penalty on LVN, but then called almost the exact same penalty on Isaiah McDuffie. There's a couple interesting special teams penalties in this one. It was all over the place from the refs. Thankfully, they got the one that mattered most at the end, that there was no time left on the clock and that the game should have been over. And in fact, it was over. Did Tucker Kraft have an injury at the end of this game? I didn't see Kraft go out in this one, but that would obviously not be great. I didn't see anything. You guys might have to let me know in chat. All right, guys. I know LaFleur is talking right now. I'm assuming we didn't get any news on a defensive coordinator change from LaFleur. All right, guys. You guys are the absolute best. Like I said, I've got a Christmas party, and I guess I'm a little bit under the weather. I will do a post-game show later today that will release tomorrow morning. We should have another one up on the audio side of things from our team as well. Appreciate you guys all a ton. Packers get the win, 33-30. Obviously, a ton to work on from a defensive standpoint. Really appreciate all of you. Hope you have a safe and happy holiday. I'll see you guys right back here tomorrow with an all-new episode. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.